My name is Tammy Freedman. I'm the recruitment manager at American Savings Bank. We're here today to talk about power negotiating. I think for many of us, negotiations, especially when it comes to salary or dealing with an employer, negotiations can be very intimidating. So help me out here. I have a little prize here. I'm thinking of a superpower negotiator. He's a huge businessman in New York. Donald Trump. What is Donald Trump famous for saying? You're fired, right? You're fired. Who said that? Someone else. Did the same person? Okay, back there. Okay, so here's the good news. The good news is that when you're negotiating a salary or negotiating with a workplace, chances are great that you're not going to be negotiating with someone like Donald Trump. You're going to be dealing with someone more like me. And I'm not used to saying, you're fired. I'm used to saying, you're hired. Okay? So we all have to realize that negotiating, we do it every single day of our lives. Yeah? Honey, I'll drop off the kids this morning if you pick them up this afternoon. Do you mind if we go to this restaurant? Because it was really ono for that particular thing. We negotiate every day of our lives. So I'm hoping to give you some tips on how to negotiate with the workplace regarding salary and more to hopefully make it a little less intimidating for you and to make it a little bit more approachable. Okay, so first of all, pretty much in general, salary is always negotiable, yeah? But here's the important thing to realize. The higher the level of position, the more negotiating can happen. Traditionally, for more entry-level positions, we usually have a stated amount that the person would make. There's not too much negotiating power. However, as we move up into more middle to senior management level, that's when your negotiating power becomes stronger because you're able to differentiate yourself as a candidate better than in the more entry-level positions. So people say, well, when do I ask for more salary? Okay? And really, it comes down to it never hurts to ask for it, but there are certain things that you should know to do to make your case a little bit stronger. And that's what I'm going to be talking about, okay? The first point, do your research, okay? There's many different ways you can do research. Perhaps you're already in the industry. You have contacts within the industry. You can ask them, oh, what does this particular position, what is the salary range around, what is that? There are websites you can look at. Salary.com has them. I did a search for Hawaii salaries, and an article came up on the internet that showed specific salaries in Hawaii and what they make. So there's a lot of different kinds of research you can do. Use your network. Talk to people you know. Do you know anybody in the human resources field who might know what this position's range is? Do you know someone in restaurant management? Whatever your interest is, try and use your network to find out what the position might earn. Really, you don't want to pull numbers out of thin air. Okay, they should have some substance to it, substantiate it a little bit. My second point, you want to be realistic. Okay, be realistic with what you're asking for. Some people might move from the mainland USA and they come here and they're hoping to make their equivalent salary or more. They're hoping to translate their lifestyle here to Hawaii. And there's a price that we pay for living in paradise. There really is. Robert Half is a very well-respected employment agency, and they put out a salary guide, and in 2012 they estimated that Hawaii salaries were actually 8% lower than mainland salaries. So unfortunate for us, but that is the reality. Again, there's a price that we pay for living in a perfect place like this, but sometimes that means a lower salary than what the mainland will pay. You need to assess yourself realistically. Really take a good look at what your skills and talents are, okay? You might have really, really great education, but you might not have a lot of working experience. Sometimes it's really hard for newly graduated college students or grad students. They have this really awesome education and degree, and unfortunately they don't have work experience yet. So it's that catch-22, right? I want to get a job, but I need a job to get a job. So just assess yourself, all right? You may have great experience. So just take a note of what your skill sets are. Have you done the job before? Have you earned this amount of money before? My third point is you want to propose a figure and then be able to justify it. Okay? So by the time that you're talking salaries, you're usually very far along in the hiring process. By the time you're talking salaries, most likely the company has identified you as someone that they want. Okay? So if I were to give a job offer at, say, this amount of salary, what I recommend is you say, you know, thank you very much. I really appreciate that. Would it be okay if I had a night to think about it? Okay? That buys you a little bit of time. So you're being gracious. You're saying thank you because that's something that we like to feel, that you're happy to have the offer. But rather than go right in there with a counter offer, it might be good. That's great. Thank you. May I have a night to think about it? Then when you go home, you can calculate, okay, if I'm going to ask for more, what am I going to ask for? And why am I going to, what justification am I going to give for that salary bump? Okay? This is not the time to say, oh, do you think I could have $5,000 more because, you know, I have 4 kids and a mortgage? That's not the time, right? We want you to put it in terms that we want to hear. What can you bring to the table? What can you give to the company that would validate us giving you an increase in salary? So you want to be specific, yeah? Saying something like, you know, I was hoping I could have a little bit more, maybe $5,000 more. You know, at my previous position, I increased revenue by 20% in 6 months. I graduated in the top 10% of my college graduation class. Those kind of specifics, yeah? Those, as a resume tip too, those are also the kinds of things we like to see on the resume, yeah? Things like I'm a team player or I'm a quick learner. Those are all great attributes to have. But when it comes to salary negotiations, I want to know specifically what you're bringing to the company, what you have to offer, and you have to help me justify giving you more money than what we're offering. Here's another thing to think about. For those of you who might work in industries where lunch might be included or they're paying for your parking, that's one thing that you can use to negotiate salary. So an example of that might be, you know, at my current position that I'm in, I receive free parking, free covered parking, and I'm provided lunch every day. And when I calculate it out, it comes out to about $5,000 a year. And I was really hoping to, you know, at least match what I'm making now, hopefully make more than that. So if you can quantify things that you're receiving now in terms of dollars as a reasoning for increasing your salary, that's a good thing. Okay, now point number 4, keep your emotions out of it, okay? Don't take it personally if we can't meet what you're asking for, because you may not understand that from the employer side, sometimes organizations can't be super flexible in what we're offering. There's only so much that we can do. Some companies are bound by very tight budgets. Some companies, most companies I would think would have to look at internal equity. And when I say internal equity, if I have 5 different people in one particular position, there has to be a very good reason why you should make more than those people, right? What kind of experience do you have above and beyond them that would make it justifiable that I'm paying you more than the other people? So that's an internal equity reason. Also, you know, positions are benchmarked at certain salary levels, yeah? So there are tools that the HR compensation areas can do to use to look up positions, benchmark them across similar businesses of our size. And so your salary needs to stay also within those ranges. So just so on your side, you understand what kind of bounds we are stuck with sometimes. Okay. You also need to be prepared for no. Okay. Hopefully we will meet to that place of consensus and it will be a good deal for you and a good deal for us. But sometimes we will have to say no. So you have to be prepared for no. And also, you know, really, when it boils down to it, it's a negotiation is meeting someplace that makes you both happy. It's giving and taking. But sometimes, if it's not right for you, you also can be prepared to walk away. Okay? My last point, remember, it's not all about the salary, okay? Salary is one of many things that a company offers you when we're giving you a job offer. So we may give you a salary range of, say, $40,000. But for example, I'm going to talk about American Savings Bank's benefits for a second. So on top of your base salary, we offer things like very generous paid time off. We give you your birthday off. We really stress work-life balance. We have a corporate wellness program that offers free fitness classes, discounted gym memberships. We give all of our employees $100 every month to help with their medical expenses. Now, this is not part of your salary, right? So sometimes you might make the decision, if the company's benefit package is as strong and robust as ours might be, you might make a decision, okay, well, maybe it's worthwhile that I take a little on salary, but look at all those juicy, yummy benefits that I'm getting. So that's all part of the weight. So I want you all to remember, salary is one of many things that you're accepting when you accept a position at a company. You also have to look at their corporate culture, yeah? Does the culture of the organization, the way that the management is, your coworkers, the feeling or the environment that you're going into, does it fit you? Yeah? We're at American Savings Bank, we really try and foster a work environment where people have fun, and where we have ping pong tables in some of our locations, where people have fun and people have a voice, where you can speak up and be heard, and we welcome ideas like that. So really, I can't stress this enough, when you have to look at the whole big picture, because salary is just one part of what you're accepting. When does salary negotiations start? Anybody? Ideas? Salary negotiation does not start in the salary negotiation talk. It starts with the moment that you touch the company. And I think a lot of people don't realize that the moment that you touch the company, whether you're applying online, whether you're meeting a recruitment team at a job fair, you are starting your salary negotiation. Because the more desirable you are, the more we want you, the more negotiating power you're going to have. If you think about it, the hiring process is very expensive for companies, right? We have a lot of staff who are having to go through a lot of applications, taking a lot of time, interviewing. By the time we've identified a person that we want to hire and we're putting the offer out there, we want you. You're what we want. Yeah? But so the more you can make yourself desirable to us, the more power you're going to have. And that starts with the moment that you touch us. It's not in the salary negotiation phase. I was asked to kind of touch on how do you negotiate a second interview. And what I would say is you can't negotiate a second interview. The way to get a second interview is to be great in the first interview.
I'd like to introduce myself. My name is Debra Hartley. My company is Precision Admin Solutions. I'm self-employed. I'm a virtual administrative assistant. So for those of you who aren't familiar with that term, that means that I offer flexible admin services to various clients who don't need someone full-time. So if you're normally an administrative assistant, you're normally there from 9 to 5, you sit at the desk and you work. For some businesses, they're too small to have someone full-time, so they'll hire someone and outsource basically their admin work. Anything from bookkeeping to event planning. I do a lot of Excel spreadsheets, PowerPoint presentations. I even actually offer organization services where I will go into someone's office and clean up the mess, basically, and then get them a system set up so that they can continue with their keeping it organized and staying on top of their paperwork. So that kind of gives you a little bit of my background. I actually have been in the administrative assistant business or admin work for about 10 years now. I actually got my degree in administrative assistant, business administration, 2-year degree. And from there, I've always had a passion for organization, and I love making sure that things are nice and neat. My friends will tell you that I'm anal retentive. It's true. But I would like to kind of give you a little bit of, once you've gotten the job that you're looking for, obviously right now you're in the interviewing process, you're putting out your resume, but then you get the job. So how do you keep the job? A lot of times it really does come down to organization and time management. If you're hired to do something and you can't stay on top of the work. You're going to get the bad employee reviews. You're not going to get the feedback that you want from your bosses. So I'm going to give you some basic tips to stay organized and stay on top of your time management. I've printed them out as well. I'll go ahead and pass those around. Looks like we should have enough. And I was really detailed. I'm a very detail-oriented person. So I was really detailed in giving you information about them. If you have any questions, feel free to jump in. But one of my biggest tips when you first get the job, take notes. I got hired at a position, I was supposed to be the office manager of an accounting firm, my very first job out of college. And they dropped me in the middle of two programs in one day that I didn't know. I had never used them, never seen them, had no clue what I was doing. So I took notes. It saved my life, because otherwise I would have been going to the manager constantly, bothering him. He would have been annoyed. I was able to refer back to the notes frequently. And at one point you will always hit a position where you need to know what's going on. Another thing is, if you get the job, you're doing great at the job, eventually you might want to take a vacation, just possibly. So if you do need to leave for some reason, if you still have those notes, if there's someone who's stepping in to help out and you haven't, they have never done the job before. If you can hand them your notes, if they're organized, if they're all together, you don't have to go digging around for the whole week before your vacation, adding more work to yourself. You can just finish up what needs to be finished up, hand them over your notes, and you can go on vacation. You may look at them once, you may never look at them again. You may look at them repeatedly for several months because something's super complicated. But if you have that reference, you're going to be able to keep up with your job a lot better. Categorizing tasks. I've told a lot of people to do this, and most of them that have tried it say it actually strangely works better. If you have multiple lists. I'm a listing person. You may just be able to keep them mentally. I can't. I panic that I'm going to forget something if it's not written down. But I have different lists. If I have my list of things that's personal, I have my list for this client, I have a list for that client. Currently I'm using a computer program that just basically is virtual Post-its. And I have a list of current clients, things that I need to get done. I have lists of deadlines that are coming up. You know how your brain works. Organization is always personal. It is always about how your system is going to work for you. If it doesn't work for you just because it works for someone else, that's nothing wrong with that. Make sure it works for you. So if you need to categorize things by date and you have, okay, this is this week's list and that's next week's list, that's fine. Or like I said, you can do it by subject. One tip to make your weekends a lot nicer, clear your desk before you leave on Friday. I actually recommend clearing your desk every day. You need to make sure that you have your to-dos. You have everything so that you can go back to it immediately without having to think about it, without sitting there on the next morning, you're like, where was I? What was I doing? Where was this? Where was that? If you make sure that your surface is clear, if you have inboxes, great, use them. Otherwise, just even if you're not in a position where you're sitting in an office and you have a lot of paperwork, if you mentally have that, okay, this is what I was in the middle of, this is where I was at on it. This is what I need to do. This is who I need to follow up with. And I recommend using folders. It's the same concept mentally. If you're not working in an office where you have a computer or a desk, mentally you're going to think, okay, this is who I need to follow up with. This is who I'm waiting on. This is what I need to do. Go through those types of things, and you'll feel a lot more comfortable knowing that, okay, I'm on top of it. I can handle this. If you're waiting on someone, you know that it's just a reminder every so often that, you know what, I still need this from you. Have you had a chance to look at it? If you're using folders in your email, I highly recommend it. Your email inbox should be your action folder. It's the first thing you open up to. If you have 5,000 emails in your action folder, you're not going to be able to find all the things that actually need action. I have my email inbox is my action folder. I have several emails that are months old that I'm still waiting on the client to get back with me. I've sent them the reminders. I continue to send them the reminders, but I need them to take action. But I also need to be the one I need the reminder that, oh, I need to follow up with so-and-so. And you can create folders within your inbox so that you can drag things over. I drag them by project, by client. When I was working at a regular office, not at my personal office, I had folders per coworker. So if I had an email from Steve, I knew to just go to Steve's box, find Steve had sent it to me, make sure I check on it, I can find it immediately. The goal of organizing your computer or your office is not to be searching through and digging through piles. So whether you've got your virtual paperwork, which is on your computer, you don't want to be hitting the search button once a week. I say once a month and you need to do some organizing, but personal preference. And also, I want to remind you, organization is fluid. It changes. If something's not working for you, change it. Just because it's how your predecessor did it doesn't mean it's right. It's how it worked for them. It's how their brain worked. I went into an office, new position, and my predecessor, her method of staying on top of things was to keep everything. And I do mean everything. You could not get your hands into the files. It worked for her. It didn't work for me. I did a serious purge. But don't feel like you have to do things a certain way just because it's always been done that way. And just because you've always done it that way doesn't mean you have to continue doing it that way. Feel free to say, you know what, this listing method isn't working. Let's try something new. Or you go into a new office and the desk is set up oddly, or there's stuff everywhere and you're kind of like, where do I find anything? Change it. If you're not organized, if you don't feel comfortable in the work that you're doing, in the place that you're working in, how are you going to be productive? You're going into a new job, you want to be productive. You want to make that good impression. You want to make sure that they know that you value the position that they've given you and that they can trust you with it. If that means that you need to tweak some things to make sure that you can stay on top of it, that's fine. That's actually good. If you can see things when you go into that office and you're like, this isn't working, like nobody can find anything, go to your manager. Offer to get it organized. Be like, you know what, nobody can find anything in the supply cabinet, or we're ordering pens like every week. How can we be going through 100 pens every week? It means that somewhere there's a stack of pens that nobody can find. So be willing to look around, see what can change. I'm not saying making changes on the first day, but go ahead and let them know that you're going to provide value to the company, that you're going to look around and see, okay, you know what, I think this could be done better. We could save some money here, or we could save some time here. Employers love to save time and money. They also love to save stress. Those are all three things that organization can usually help with. So moving along to time management. Some people don't like the words time management. I like it to think of it as organizing my time rather than like managing it. I'm not trying to be a control freak about my time, but I do want to know, where's my time going? Am I being productive? Am I getting done what I should be getting done? For me, it's become even more important being self-employed, because obviously if I don't have the right amount of time, if I can't bill, I'm not going to be eaten. So it's important to make sure that I stay on top of things and I keep things flowing like I would if I was working for someone else. So one thing that I've found saves a lot of time is working on like items together. I know a lot of people are a little bit ADD and they bounce around from thing to thing, but if you can manage to sit down and just, if you know you have 5 emails to send 5 emails. If you know that you have paperwork that's important before you can send those 5 emails, take care of your paperwork. Just sit down, breeze through it, eliminate distractions, and just work through. Don't try to go and you're going to write an email, then you're going to make a phone call, then you're going to work on some paperwork, and then you're going to go back to the email because you're halfway through that email, and then you're going to go back to another phone call. Eliminate as many distractions as possible. Obviously, if your job is to answer the phones, you need to answer the phones. But if you can work through and make sure that you think through before you start working, sit down in the morning and think, okay, you know what, I need to do these emails, but before I do that, I need to get this paperwork done, because the information in the emails is contingent on the paperwork. Sit down, get your paperwork done, then do your emails. If there's phone calls that are contingent on those, make the phone calls. It will save you a lot of time if you're not having to retrain your mind back to where you were originally. Prioritize. I have several clients who look at a list and they tell me that everything is important on the list. Sorry to tell you, it's not. There are things that are more important than others. You need to think through, okay, is there a deadline on something? Is someone else waiting on me for this? Is their deadline coming up soon? Is my boss needing this? So depending on your job and whether you're in an office, if you're in a retail position, you'll know what your priorities are. Sometimes it's a little bit harder if nobody will set a deadline on anything. I have a few clients like that, and I'm usually the one who sets the deadline. You may need to choose and set a deadline. They may say, okay, we need this work done. When do you need it by? Whenever, just get around to it. You might decide that, okay, I need to have this done by the end of the day on Friday because I don't want to work on it next week. Find out what your priorities are. When someone assigns something to you, find out when they need it by. Just automatic question. If you're sitting at a desk, you're sitting at a table, you're receiving assignments, when do you need this by? Automatic question. I take notes. That's my personal preference. I make sure that I've got it written down. Then if 5 things pile in on me right after someone's told me something, I didn't forget the deadline. So prioritize if you use an ABC system, however you need to do it. But again, it takes a few minutes to think through what can save you a lot of time in the end throughout your day.